Hey guys, welcome to another episode of The Vinyl Den, your channel for record collecting by record collectors. I'm Nick. Today I'm talking about the latest release from Rancid, Tomorrow Never Comes. There's a bunch of links down below. Make sure you check them out. There's links for the Vinyl Den Facebook group, for the merch page, for the Spotify and Apple Music playlists we put together every week, and the Patreon page. Make sure you go check all that out. Of course, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give me a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button down below, and make sure you hit that notification bell so you're notified every time I release new episodes. So Rancid's 10th studio album was just released on June 2nd, and now that I've had a couple of weeks to dig into this and listen to this a bunch of times, I kind of wanted to give you my opinion on this album. I've been a big Rancid fan ever since the first time I heard And Out Come the Wolves in like late '95. Been a huge fan of the band, and they were actually, it was that first album, And Out Come the Wolves, was actually their third studio album. They really got me into punk. I was able to go back and discover bands like Operation Ivy, and that kind of led me into some other Bad Brains and things like that from the late '80s through the early part of the '90s. That I really dug into and really enjoyed. And it was because of that album that I really have continued to be a Rancid fan over the last, almost 30 years now. And the band has kind of ebbed and flowed with me, though. I really loved And Out Come the Wolves. I really loved the follow-up to that, Life Won't Wait. And then when their next studio album came out, their second self-titled album that they did in 2000, I feel like Rancid really kind of almost had listened too much of that that they had gone mainstream and kind of sold out, and they did a hardcore punk album, which, as far as hardcore punk albums go, I think it's an okay album. I just wasn't a big fan of it as a Rancid album. And then after that, they released Indestructible in 2003, which I thought was a fantastic album, right up there with And Out Come the Wolves and Life Won't Wait. And after that, they released the next album was, what was it? It was Let the Dominoes Fall, which I thought was a good album, really solid album. I felt like there was a little bit more filler in that album. There had been in albums before that. And then their last two albums, which were Honor Is All We Know and Troublemaker, I wasn't a big fan of. So when this new album was announced, I didn't really know what to expect. I kind of figured it was going to be along the lines, more along the lines of probably Troublemaker than anything else they'd done before. And so it was one of those albums I kind of wanted to wait for and listen to a couple of times before I even decided whether or not I was going to buy it. And once I liked the album, I really wanted to give myself a couple of weeks to kind of see where I felt it ranked with other Rancid albums. First off, I'll say that it was a really short album. It is the shortest album of their career. It's 16 tracks over less than 29 minutes of music. I think it's 28 minutes and 45 seconds, something like that. And there's only, I think, 4 tracks that are over 2 minutes long. So in typical punk fashion, it's very short, very energetic, very fast. I will say that they're with Troublemaker and Honor Is All We Know, I felt like it missed. It was maybe there's a little bit too much production, I think, is maybe the best way to put it on those two albums. With Tomorrow Never Comes, I feel like it's a grittier kind of album. It's maybe a little more in tune with some of the earlier stuff that Rancid did in their career, off of like Let's Go and their first self-titled album, rather than trying to recreate some of the magic that they had with Life Won't Wait and Out Come the Wolves, which I feel like that's kind of what they did with some of the stuff on Indestructible, even though I think Indestructible is a great album, and the follow-up to that, which is Let the Dominoes Fall. There's one thing that Rancid has always been great at, and that is writing and recording really great, catchy punk songs. And that's no different on this new album. There's definitely a lot of that on here, but it's not too much of a poppiness to this, even though, some of Rancid's older stuff can kind of venture a little bit more down that popular path, even with like Life Won't Wait, which was a little more of an experimental kind of punk album for them. This, I think, really gets back to their punk roots, and it does it in a great way. And now that Rancid's 30 years into their music career, it's really kind of interesting to see this progression that they've taken throughout their career. And to be completely honest, there's not a lot of bands, especially rock bands, in 2023 that are this far into their career that are able to release such high quality music. So as far as some of my favorite songs on here, I will say that they released 3 singles off this album. I know the title track, Tomorrow Never Comes, was one single. I don't remember what the other 2 were. I think Devil in Disguise and Don't Make Me Do It, I think, were the other 2 singles, which are both great tracks on here. Like I said, there's not a skippable track on this album, but I think The Bloody and Violent History is another great track. There's The Road to Righteousness is a great track. Prisoner Song, One Way Ticket, Hellbound Train, Eddie the Butcher, just a great collection of really, just like I said, just really great energetic punk songs with that grittiness that I think a lot of punk music, especially now in the 2020s, is really kind of lacking. So as far as how would I rate this album and rank it with other Rancid albums, I think Rancid has a pretty high bar that they've set in their career with And Out Come the Wolves and Life Won't Wait. I think those are always going to be the best 2 albums of their career. I would put this probably in a tie with Indestructible for third. I think it is that great of an album. And as much as I like Indestructible, there are a couple of filler tracks on Indestructible and that there aren't on this album. Maybe that's because Indestructible is a longer album. Maybe if this was a 34, 35-minute album, there would be a little bit more of that filler on there. So I think that at 28 minutes and 45 seconds, 16 tracks, it's just nice and compact. There's nothing, like I said, that's skippable on here. And just overall, it's a great album. I would put this at probably 8.5 is how I would rate this album. And, the only downside I could have is, I know this is going to contradict what I just said, is I'd like to see it be a little over 30 minutes, maybe have another 1 or 2 tracks on here, 31, 32 minutes. But like I said, maybe if that was the case, it would have filler on here and I wouldn't feel maybe the same way as I do about it. But, 30 years into their career, man, I was really impressed with the quality on this album. Well, that's all I got for today, guys. Thanks for checking the show out. Make sure you drop me a comment down below. Let me know if you checked out this Rancid album. Like I said, if you're a punk fan, even if you're like a casual kind of punk fan, I highly recommend checking out this new album from Rancid. I was going into it, I didn't really know what to expect, and I've been really kind of blown away with how much I love this album. But let me know what you guys think. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give me the old thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. That's all I got. Until next time, keep on spinning. Peace.